Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at Agents of Dreamland by Caitlin R. Kiernan, the first book chosen for the Dungeon Dive Book Club. Now, if you would like to discuss this book live with myself and some other Dungeon Dive viewers, I will be putting a link in the description and I will be pinning it to the first comment below, a link to a Google Meeting chat room. And we can all log in and have a nice video discussion about the book if you want to. So if that sounds interesting to you, please comment below that you will be there. And that will be Friday, August 28th from 6 to 7 p.m. If nobody is interested, if nobody posts that they're interested in talking about the book, I will cancel the meeting and not waste anyone's time. We can maybe just discuss it in the comments below, but I thought it might be fun since this is a book club to meet, in person and talk about it. So if that sounds interesting, please comment below. So Agents of Dreamland, this is the second time I've read this book and I still absolutely loved it. There was things that I picked up that I missed in the first time. That's very easy to do with this book because Caitlin R. Kiernan, she packs in so much freaking plot into 124 pages. The scope of the entire story runs from like 1930s all the way through possibly hundreds of years into the future from now, all in this tiny little book. And it's pretty wild that she's able to do that so efficiently. And a lot of the ways she does that is through the structure of the novel and strategically leaving things out while also expecting a certain level of knowledge that the reader is bringing to the book about its themes, and also really respecting the reader's intelligence. And that is something that I greatly admire from a work of genre fiction. Sometimes genre fiction can be written to a lowest common denominator. It's popcorn. It can be like popcorn entertainment. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But when a author writes something that is demanding, I admire that if I can get into it, if I can meet that level of demand. And I can with Agents of Dreamland. And that's because, like themes in board games are so important to me, like the most important thing to me, a theme in a book is probably even more important. I'm not going to go out of my way to read a book on a topic that doesn't sound interesting to me without a lot of pushing and prodding from somebody whose opinion I trust a lot. It just so happens that Agents of Dreamland is about all kinds of things that I find super interesting. It is basically the X-Files meets cosmic horror with elements of like 90s paranoia, UFO cults, government conspiracies, and then Lovecraftian mythos, all like mixed in together to make something that is altogether quite unique, I think. I haven't read a lot of books that make me feel the way this book does. There's a real sense of like of creepiness and urgency bubbling away in the plot. Now, because of the way it's structured, and what I mean by that is I actually had to go and, well, I didn't have to, but this time reading it, I actually created a timeline because I wanted to really see how the narrative flows. And like I said, the earliest time I can find in this book, I believe, is 1933. And that's when we learned that the author, Edgar Rice Burroughs, dreamed of this cosmic cloud, this fungal cloud, and way past Pluto, close to the planet Yugoth, from Lovecraftian mythos, this fungoid planet that is sending spores throughout the solar system to take over other planets. So we learned that he had a vision of this in 1933. He then wrote a screenplay and they made a movie called The Star Maiden that kind of foreshadowed what was happening with this fungus invasion. And then we go into the 60s where we first meet one of our main characters, the Signal Man, as a little kid. And he's watching movies, like monster movies, late at night. And that is by far my favorite chapter of the book. It's, where is that? Yeah, it's called A Piece of the Sky. Chapter 4 takes place on August 17th, 1968. Just an absolutely fantastic chapter. So well written, with so much nostalgia and love and respect for this kind of like time in your life when you're first experiencing this kind of like these monster movies and stuff. Really, really well written chapter. But from 68, we move through the 70s and we learn about some astronomers who were searching for Planet X past Pluto, and they also had these dreams of this fungus cloud moving through space. And then we go into the like 2009, and we are introduced to Drew Standish, who is the leader of this cult. And this is one of the topics that I find really fascinating in this book. The cult was definitely kind of based on the Heaven's Gate cult. And I have this this article here written by a member of Heaven's Gate. I did some independent research on Heaven's Gate for a long time ago. There's a great podcast just called Heaven's Gate that I highly recommend. A really fascinating group of people, very tragic and sad, but also I have just a small part of me totally sympathizes with their view on not feeling like you have a place in this world. And it was such an interesting time during the Heaven's Gate when that was around, like in the or was it early 90s? Late 90s, so like 96. There's this other article I have here, and I'll post links to these. Courtney Brown, a virtual accomplice to suicide. So the Art Bell Show, Coast to Coast AM, was a talk radio AM show all about conspiracy theories and UFOs and monsters and cryptozoology and all that kind of stuff. And in the late 90s, there was a comet that was coming and was going to pass by Earth called Hale-Bopp. And this is real. This isn't a conspiracy. There was actually a comet called Hale-Bopp. And Art Bell had on this guy named Courtney Brown, who was this remote viewer who said he worked for the government and the CIA and all that kind of stuff. Probably not true. Maybe, I don't know. But he said that his group of remote viewers, that they discovered that the comet Hale-Bopp had a companion, this thing that was trailing it, and it was like the size of the Earth or something. And they determined that it was a spaceship. Now, at the time, I was listening to this all live on the radio over the course of like a week or something. It was crazy. And I'm not going to say I didn't believe it, and I'm not going to say I did believe it. I'll say what, Mulder used to say, I wanted to believe. But some people who did believe it were the Heaven's Gate cult. And they heard this and they thought that this spaceship was their basically mothership coming back, and they killed themselves to release their spirits up to this mothership so they could leave their earthly bodies and pass on. And their whole goal was a thing called Tela, and it was the evolutionary level above humans. Just, like I said, sad but fascinating, and they're just it's a really interesting time in American pop culture history where all of these things converge into this perfect storm of paranoia. But their cult leaders, T and Doe, they are actually mentioned in Agents of Dreamland, and the cult, the children of the next level, the evolutionary level above human, they were so definitely patterned on Heaven's Gate. And that's just another layer of topic that I like. But as I was saying, if you don't have some of that previous knowledge about those things, about the Cthulhu mythos, about Lovecraftian horror and cosmic horror, if you don't have any if you're not bringing to this book any knowledge about Art Bell and 90s conspiratorial theories and UFO cults and Heaven's Gate and all that stuff, I don't know how well this book will read. A lot of it I could see being very confusing and very out there. So if this is the first time you've read this book and you don't have that previous like esoteric knowledge, I'm not bragging that I do. It's just happened to be something that I was interested in many years ago. So, would this book encourage a reader to look into those things, or would a reader just kind of be like, I have no idea what the heck any of this stuff means, toss it? So it is that could be a problem when an author expects a certain amount of knowledge from a reader. You know, there's that kind of it's a balancing act. And my buddy Aaron, he mentioned that he felt that this whole novel was a tightrope act, a balancing act of her just giving you just enough information to keep going. And like I said, really expecting the reader to put a lot into it to get the most out. And she could have very easily, Kiernan could have very easily fallen off that tightrope, but she didn't. She nails it. So in that sense, I think it's a great success. And yeah, so like the vast scope of the narrative is also something that she does by just sprinkling in the details and requiring the reader to connect a lot of dots. You know, this could have very well have been a 1,000-page novel that covered, you know, the immense history from the 1930s on into the future, by very clearly detailing every little narrative beat along the way. But instead, we get 124 pages of just little punctuation points throughout history of important things that we need to know to connect and to understand the story at hand. So yeah, so that's it. That is Agents of Dreamland. Highly recommend it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was a good pick for the first Dungeon Dive book club. And I know what we're going to do in October. I haven't yet picked a book for September. Actually, that's not true. I am thinking of 2 books for September. And I will let you guys know what those are as soon as possible. And I will also let you guys know what the October book will be. I'm looking forward to both of them, especially the October book. So, all right, well, let me know if you guys want to talk about this book live on the Google meeting. Again, I will post the link, and definitely do comment here if you want to. So, all right, guys, we'll take it easy. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.